Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Build in Digital micro conference on skills and training. Mind the digital skills gap. Construction faces a notorious skills gap, but on top of that, as new technology comes to the fore, it also needs to ensure an influx of digital savvy recruits. So, what is the industry doing to secure a workforce of the future and ensure they not only have the key construction skills, but the ability to navigate a data-driven future? My name is Joe Broom. I'm the Managing Director of Building Digital and today's chair of the micro conference. And it's my pleasure to introduce our first keynote speaker of the session, which is Andrew Johnson, Associate and Training Lead at Ocana. Andrew, you're free to take over your screen.
Thanks very much, Joe. No, thank you and welcome everyone. I'm going to discuss for the next 10 minutes-ish, and I say ish there, from data to impact and how AI, so artificial intelligence, is reshaping the learning experience. So I'm the training development lead. Probably if you asked me 6 months ago, I used to really just work with building information modeling, BIM and digital. But then since Ocana, which was formerly BIM Academy, became Ocana, I actually lead all of these services. And I'm not going to go through them all. You can see them on there, but it was quite a learn journey for me to understand what they all are and all the different expertises and working with all of the leads. But it's fantastic. And hopefully you'll see through this presentation how a lot of these expertises can be actually used for digital and actually fill in the skills gap. Right, so the next frontier in workforce empowerment. Knowledge is doubling every 12 months. That's what was quoted in 2023. Now in 2024, it's nearly every 12 hours. And we had a good conversation in the breakout room there as well about how things are happening generally overnight. And the global e-learning market is expected to reach 370 billion by 2026, which is roughly only 13 months away if we look there. The growth demands in innovation and designing and delivering learning, but what is this secret innovation that's going to be there? So this image I use for BIM training, and I think Dr. Melanie Robinson, my colleague, uses it for a lot to do with information management. But what we'll briefly go through is each stage, but you can see it goes from there. And what I see it is the challenge of e-learning and also just the whole of learning evolution as well. So if we have a look at the first one, we've got the data, and this is the raw facts, the unorganized and no context. Then we've got information. So this is process data, it's organized, and it's got added context. Then we've got knowledge, so connected information, structured understanding, and there's also a framework creation. Then we've got insight, so deeper understanding, actionable conclusions and supports decision making. Then wisdom, which is strategic application, broader context, and then problem solving. And then finally, we've got impact, which is that tangible outcomes, measurable results, and real world change. Just want to highlight that there's gaps between all of these. And if you asked me where we were 4 years ago, we were definitely in the knowledge. So we had all the data, the internet gave us the information. Now we're starting to use that all information and put it all together in with the knowledge. And then since artificial intelligence came in, roughly, and it's always been here, but then available to us all through OpenAI and all the other large language models, we are sitting here now and probably moving more to the insight every single day. So to understand the gaps, we first need to know about the foundation of data. So data without context is meaningless, raw, and unstructured. We've got the historical methods, and probably most of us on this call probably still or used to use them. And we've got books and we've got encyclopedias, I should say. And then with all of this data, we use our Excel spreadsheets or any other database software. And in moving through, what we're seeing more and more now is learning management system platforms. But again, if we fail to integrate real-time data and actionable insights, then it is going to cause us issues. And as well as we generate this data, we struggle to synthesize its meaning and also its guidance. So what about information? So breaking this overload, and the internet has given us so much. And again, information is only helpful if it's filtered and created. And again, hopefully we've got tools like Google and so on that help to do all of these for us. But if we look at, again, the internet's most significant flaw, it's the access without this guidance. We've got the evolution of e-learning. And again, we were generally forced more because of the COVID pandemic to work from home. Then we couldn't have those face-to-face interactions, so on. So again, we've got this huge boom of this e-learning. But is it any good? We've also got the PDFs and also these static courses where, yes, we get given them and it's read through. We've got some engagement. Think of like your work-based training, your screen training, so on like that. It's mandatory, we need to do it, but is it that engaging? And then, of course, we've got these dynamic self-placed platforms, and there's an abundance of them, okay? But when created effectively, information becomes knowledge. Taking any of these, okay? And again, we've got all different learning ways that we can use, be it visual, be it audible, be it reading, kinesthetics, so actually doing things. So again, using that VARK. But as I mentioned there, all of this is readily available on the internet, but there's probably too much of it. Again, most LMS platforms, one size fits all. And what I mean by that is it's only focused at the average learner. But we're not all average learners, we're all individuals, okay? Again, we've got every learner receives the same course, irrespective of the skill level. So again, you might just click, 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 because it's not applicable to you. And again, that one size fits all comes to even the assessments. And again, it fails to capture the individual's growth. Moving on to that current knowledge platform there. So let's just say you've got a course. Most courses are linear, okay? So all the learners follow the same predefined steps. There's no flexibility for individuals with their strengths or the weaknesses. And it assumes all the learners progress at the same pace. But what if that journey could actually be mixed up? And that is their learner's path. Or this could be that learner's path. Or if you're that pilot and you've got all of it, you might just need to dip in, and that might be that path to get the certificate. Again, it's all based off, but how do we actually achieve this? Well, you've got to carry out some type of assessment. And again, this is one area that we're working at to hopefully do these assessments, so it then creates these individual paths. The benefits of personalized paths, well, of course, you've got efficiency, engagement, but outcome focused, as in you might not have people that are suddenly bottlenecked waiting to do these courses that take maybe 1 or 2 days. It might only take them an hour because they've already got that knowledge. What we've been working at is this using the knowledge is for an adaptive learning model. So you can see on the screen there, this is taken from our learning management system that we're looking to develop where it might take modules from different courses because they might have done an assessment. Once they've done that assessment, they've actually got different modules from different courses, and then you have your custom course. You might think of this from something that we probably watch on probably on an evening and something like that. Netflix. Imagine a learning like Netflix where you turn it on and it only gives you the content that you actually need. Okay, so again, we've got this adaptive learning style. So what we've been working on is we're creating the Ohana Oracle, the font of all knowledge. And probably some people, if they actually know and they're quite old enough, might remember that from the Matrix. It was the Oracle, the font of all knowledge. So imagine having this Oracle where you can actually ask that Oracle any questions at any time, and it can give you that information. You can stop the training and go, well, how could this be used in this way or that way? Digital twins. So digital twins is probably a topic that has been asked lots and lots all the time. So let's just have a little example and hopefully you'll see on here. So this is on module 1.4 and this is on digital twins. Let's see how we can incorporate the Ohana Oracle. That is, of course, in development.
Digital twin technology can be used to support a wide range of applications in the mining industry, such as mine planning and design.
Could you imagine if you like that? Right. Well, okay then, let's start typing now. So what, oh, sorry, bit there. Imagine that, so what other industries could digital twins, okay, be used in? And you stop the training, and again, you could ask it anything. So ask the Oracle, generates a response, and then within a few seconds, you're having a response there. Again, accessibility, you can read it, but what if you speak? But also as well, accessibility, what about if you wanted it in different languages? Okay, so again, we might need it in Japanese. So with a click of the button, could you change it to Japanese? Again, working a lot in the Middle East with huge construction projects, could we actually change it to Arabic? But on accessibility needs as well, we might not be able to read this.
يمكن استخدام التوائم الرقمية في صناعات مختلفة بخلاف التعدين. تشمل بعض هذه الصناعات الرعاية الصحية لمراقبة.
So there you can see the power of AI, of how it can be used within learning, and where we can see here. Just some more facts here. AI systems projected to handle 90% of work-based training by 2030. Woohoo! No desktop ones like that. We're actually going to get engaging content. So we can actually use the vision and check if you are sitting right, you are in the right position, and so on. Again, we've got different, sorry, again, I'm just trying to get onto the slide. There we go. Using AI as well. It's at every individual. You've seen there just on the demo of how it can be. We've got a new terminology, so agentic AI for reasoning, iterative planning, to autonomously solve complex problems and multi-steps. Imagine the assessment at the end where you've done a multiple choice, you might have got it right, and then suddenly AI asks you and says, but why did you choose that answer? And you have to then tell it, and then it starts engaging with you. And then it can report back to the workplace or the organization or education authority and turn around and say, they don't understand this and then probably need this training. So this is where we start getting to that dynamic area. And finally, we get to impact. So think about the human AI synergy. So what happens when? Okay, so we've got the what happens when there. AI systems start teaching us things we didn't know we needed to learn. So what happens with this? We can explore where the future of AI mentors and learners work in real time. And again, I'm sure this is not going to be very far off where we're going to actually be engaging with our phones or with systems and so on. So our role of shaping tomorrow, again, you can see here. So the leap from data to impact is not just technological, and it's also as well, not just myths. It's actually happening. We're working with this development now. And again, it's human. It needs that human input. It needs that human to review. It needs that human to work with that AI as well, whatever system you're going to be using with as well. But again, this is where you do need that synergy of working. We always in Ocana say that AI is a colleague, but at the first time, always treat it like a new starter, because like anyone, they need to learn the standard operating procedures, they need to know how the way is working, and need to know you personally, how you work as well. Okay, but that's what I'm just going to talk about there. This is Ocana, and that's Shape Tomorrow. Has anyone got any questions?
Thank you, Andrew, for a very informative presentation there. Fascinating to see that AI model we've got there. Very impressive. We do have a question on the chat from quite early in the presentation, actually.
Okay.
It was about clarifying what you mean by knowledge. So, great if you could clarify what you mean by knowledge, i.e. doubling every 12 months statement.
So what we mean by knowledge is we generally take it by two. So you've got knowledge, so like everything that you need to learn to do something, but then you've got the skills to actually apply. So you've always got to learn. It's a bit like learning a recipe. If you get the recipe, it'll have the ingredients, but you need that method. So that method of how to, because the ingredients just gets put in a list. It doesn't tell you how though. So if you don't put it in a bowl and so on like that, you're just like, you're generally not going to. If you ever like doing like sponge cakes or anything like that, you'll know that it needs to go in at the right scenario. So you need to have that knowledge, that method of how, okay, or the process and so on of how it needs to be applied step by step before then you can start applying the skills. And then you might have, so on the BIM side of things, we've got ISO 19650. The standards is going to be knowledge, so to fill in that process. Then we can use the BIM tools, and I say tools, not software, to actually then implement by using authoring tools like Revit or management tools like Navisworks and or like clash detection tools like Celebri. But that's the skills. So of course you need that knowledge first and then applying it using the skills. I hope that makes sense.
It does. And then Lawrence also follows up with another question, which is, how will this create materials and deliver a training course to use a specific BIM software?
Well, we're using this as well to do this, so artificial intelligence. But as I mentioned throughout the presentation, it's a tool, a bit like the BIM tools. And of course, it needs lots of care, nurturing, I would say lots of review, privacy, everything to do with it. But we can actually then start using, so we can take research. So there's lots of different tools you can use, like Perplexity for research. You can use ChatGPT now. It's got the search function on there as well to use the internet. So again, you can use it for that, but you've always, like anything, you've got to review and look where the sources, where they come from. Once you've checked it through there, then we can start applying it into the course. Remember, like AI really is to just help you and spark that creativity. So like designing any course, you might hit that blank, but all it might need is just some little sentence or something like a learning outcome that you want to put in there. Can you help me generate this course? Ah, right. And then you go off. And then you might need its help again, and then you go off. So that's the way we see that the tools actually use. But for software training, there's people using, definitely using Python, so coding to then make ChatGPT plugins using Dynamo and so on. So that side of it on the BIM software, it's accelerating to do these, hopefully do these like repetitive jobs for using the software.
Sagal Rubel has a question. The training material that sits behind that chat, is that something that Okana has produced?
Yes, right. So this is the key thing of, so we don't just let the AI go, off you go. We have a knowledge base. So every single course, like anything, is fully scripted with e-learning. And also as well, we have a full knowledge base of how this is produced. And main reason for this is it's best practice to do that, because you can't just let AI, it hallucinates. So we don't want it to go off. What we might do though is ask for permissions. So just say they do ask a subject, and then we'd say, right, do we give them permission, or do we fill that into the knowledge base? And then we can do that on side of it. But all of the material that the AI bot uses all of our knowledge base. So it's all our content. And again, we need to do it this way for actually the language translation. So like we showed on there, like Japanese and Arabic and so on.
Sure. Got any further questions for Andrew?
Hi there, I've got one. Hi, Andrew. How are you doing? You know I'd be here eventually. I was just listening to that, quite interested in it, and AI is sort of a really big thing at the moment. We actually did a conference yesterday on AI for the housing industry. Housing industry. You touched on the idea of human AI synergy at the end, and I just wondered what safeguards or strategies are in place to ensure the sort of increasing reliance on AI doesn't inadvertently sort of diminish the role of the human sort of connection. Sort of how does that work with your model? I mean, is it part of a wider program, or is it something that can be?
No, it is.
separate?
So it's a bit, so the AI as well, just say the learner was going in, they can't go off topic. It'll bring them back on board. So they couldn't say like that, oh, can you order me a Domino's pizza? It would just be like that. Well, actually, we're not here to order our pizzas. We're here to learn about this. So it's got their mechanisms in that. So like anything to do, and we had a good conversation in the break rooms there, it is based on like ethics and privacy and so on. And so all information that's captured there is held within there, but it doesn't hallucinate. I know Dr. Izzy Williams is on the call, and she leads the learning and development for Rider. And this is a hot topic, even for like Rider architecture. We're just about to do a presentation very, very soon to Rider on how to use these tools properly. Again, sensitivity, so a bit like GDPR and so on like that. It's a large language model. It's open. If you put names in there, it's like sending the text message to everyone in your contacts. So it's very much about how to use it properly. Like any tool, I do think you have to use and have guidance. I know like everyone's criticizing like AI at the moment, but if I said to everyone on this call, have you had Zoom training before? Have you had Teams training? Have you had Excel training? We're all just expected to actually learn or actually pick this up as we go on. So I would probably say, yes, I would say before you definitely use it, you need to set out like a policy and how it should be used safely.
Good stuff. Well, thank you, Andrew, for a very insightful presentation and fascinating to learn about what Ocana are up to. So just to summarise from today's micro conference, we first heard from Andrew Johnson at Ocana. Andrew's presentation was entitled From Data to Impact. So this was a presentation about where we've been, where we are now, and looking forward to the future of where we are with training and BIM training in particular. Andrew asked, is there too much information, too much data? And training is usually standard or one size fits all, which may not be great for everyone. Therefore, it's best to employ an adaptive learning model. And agentic AI, Andrew explained, used by Ocana, which can stop the train, you can stop the training and ask questions, and even use a different language. Sounds absolutely fantastic in terms of a potential solution and a more adaptive learning model. Andrew moved into the human AI synergy of this platform, which eventually he believes will end up with the impact on the individual rather than just a lot of data. Next, we had a visiting professor, Dr. Noah Salib, who talked about the training digital skills gap in the wider sense of the word and how the global challenges could impact the future of learning. Noah then started to talk about the digital skills training and the gaps within, picking up the point from Andrew earlier about not having a one-size-fits-all approach to training and learning. An example of this is when students at Middlesex University were asked to create a digital twin of heritage buildings in Egypt. And this engaged the students in the outcomes of the project in real time, gaining real experience and developing the skills they needed to along the way. So not only were practical skills and training used, but the outcome of increasing sustainability was made practically for these buildings. A new way of learning like this, without exams, really does open up the next generation of graduate for jobs that maybe doesn't yet exist. And then finally, we came to James Bishop from SCS, which is part of the Waits Group. James's role is to bring technology into the construction industry, and obviously SCS in particular, a new role that probably didn't exist until a few years ago. Looking at the digital skills gap in the workplace in construction, he took an overview of where he sits and how technology roles are perceived and what is involved. James wanted to say it's not about taking the tech and trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. It's vice versa. Take a real problem and create a solution using the tech that is available. Like what Uber did with the taxi business, this can be done on construction in a similar way. We may be failing as an industry to work smarter as the perception needs to change, and by showing the benefits, we can make this change in the culture of a business. James then talks about overcoming barriers and explaining steps to success, which starts with changing the perception at grassroots, and then this expands to be adopted business-wide. And I shall finish with a comment from Andrew, who commented on James's presentation saying, communities or finding your tribe is definitely the way forward for continuous learning. So we'll draw today's session to a close. Thank you very much for everyone who attended. Thank you to our speakers. And we hope to see you at a future Building Digital micro conference.